We're going to talk about courage, the unknown, and curiosity. Uh, no, I didn't put curiosity, but expansion. Yes, courage, the unknown, and expansion. Uh, why is it necessary to have courage to explore the unknown and expand? Well, basically, this is what the spiritual awakening is all about. And let's think of Plato's allegory of the cave. The people there that thinking that the shadows they were seeing were reality, and then the one person who had the courage to actually venture out and realize that there's a whole world out there and that the shadows are nothing but shadows and they're not reality. So the same is happening once we start to become more conscious and aware and discover that there's so much more than what we've been told or what the people around us know. And in that process, a lot of courage is required first to venture out of the box that you have grown up and been raised into. Two, to explore once you're out. Three, to come back and share it. Four, most importantly, to live it. And we can also tie this to the hero's journey outlined by Joseph Campbell. So every time we go and explore other realms of consciousness with curiosity, hopefully, and not fear, then we get enriched and we see more and we learn more than we've known before. And what can cause suffering is one, not exploring when you feel the urge because you're crippled by fear and the pull of the familiar. Two, starting to explore, but then again, pulled by fear and the familiar, you stop. And you've gotten a little bit of a taste, and then you're like, oh no, I better play safe. That can cause stuckness and suffering. And then also, what can cause stuckness is suffering. Once have you've gone exploring, the inability to share because you're not received. Like people do not want to receive the information you have brought back because it will threaten their own way of living and existence, and it will show them that there's so much more to life, and it will invalidate certain truths that they've been living their life by, which would mean collapsing of certain belief systems and causing cognitive dissonance. So a lot of times, even though you have done that journey and you have brought important information and you try to share it, it is not received well. And then when you do attempt to live it, if you are that brave and you get to that point, then your mere existence, it's causing turmoil and projection from the other people. Uh, it's a Camus quote, in a world that is so unfree, you have to be so free that your mere existence is an act of rebellion. So if you have the guts to do all that, kudos to you. And then, you just have to do it over and over and over again. And that's how revolutionaries are born. And artists and people that others can call eccentric and weird and strange, who live a life by their own rules and terms, who appear to be very free because they're not limited by what other people are telling them to think and feel and believe, but they go and explore and they find the things that are true to them and they create a life based on their own experience, their own visions, their own dreams, their own beliefs, and things that they have tested. So, uh, to expand, we need that courage to go explore consciousness. And if we can get past that level, life becomes really interesting because, like Anais Nin puts it, a life shrinks and expands in proportion to one's courage. And while you're going out there and exploring, You will encounter things that will make you doubt yourself and your belief system and the life that you have lived so far. So it's also a constant process of letting go and releasing. Yeah, my screen is blacked out because I like it that way. I think better in darkness. Um, so yeah, in that process, you have to release a lot. Like for example, that we need to have faces and light on live streams. Who said that? Nobody. And by releasing and letting go of a lot of so-called rules and the way things are supposed to be and the way things should be done and the way these people are and the way that people are, you just become more free because you realize that there are no rules. Reality is arbitrary and it's actually created by our own thoughts and feelings. And everybody is living in their own reality. And even if you try to convince them that something is not true, it's true for them because they support that belief, thought, and feeling. And it might not be true for you. So everything becomes a lot more playful and light and not so serious because instead of trying to make other people understand us and like agree with us, and instead of controlling and manipulating so we can feel safe, we go out exploring, we're courageous, and that we create our own rules. We live by our own visions and dreams, and whatever is aligned comes to us, and whatever is not aligned, we just let it go. And there's no reason to take things personally. There's no reason, to get worked up and make assumptions and be caught in somebody else's perception of reality. You just know what's true for you, and you live by that. And when you uh, encounter, like when you get into a space where you feel like something is kind of like not right, and like maybe you're feeling a little bit stagnant, you're feeling like you need to expand a little more, then you go to that process again. And initially, it's always a little uncomfortable, but the more you stay with the discomfort, the more it's leading you to, oh, okay, I need to change something. What do I need to change? And then something that sounds good shows up, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to follow that thread. And then it leads you to something else and something else. And if you're brave to follow, you keep expanding. And in this way, life is that constant process of becoming, again, to quote Anais. And it's a combination of states that we go through, and we can grow in all kinds of directions. That it's not linear. We can be mature in one realm and immature in another. And hopefully, as we live, we take those opportunities for expansion where we're shown our deficiency in a certain realm through a person, a situation, and we decide, okay, I'm going to explore more of this so I can come into fullness, I can come into wholeness, I can be more mature, I can be more conscious, more present, more aware. And through that, we develop a lot of emotional intelligence. And naturally, when we venture out, we will encounter challenges, most of them mental and psychological, or intense emotions. But through overcoming them, we actually develop more courage. So, courage is a muscle that the more we exercise it, the bigger it gets. And courage is a function of the heart. So the more we open our heart, um, the more enjoyable life becomes. And the more we love, the more we're enriched, because it's through more loving that the soul grows. And the ability to love not just that which is seemingly apparently like you, but the ability to love that which seemingly is very different from you, because on a deeper level, you're aware that you are the same thing. You are the same energy, just different expressions. And when you operate from that level, the fear drops away and there is more the curiosity. Oh, this is interesting. Wow, this person is very different from me. I want to talk to them just because they're very different, and I want to like hear their perspectives and know more about their life because for sure that's gonna enrich me because it's an unfamiliar territory. Instead of, oh, this person is really different, there's something, oh, I better stay away from them, oh, I'm not sure about that. And when you live life in that fearful state, it's so shrunken and so dried up and so sad, honestly. Um, but when we start expanding and gather more courage through facing the unknown and exploring it and realizing it's only because it's unfamiliar, it's scary. But once we explore a little bit more, you can find something in common with everything pretty much. And then it becomes very exciting because the unknown becomes a source of more beauty, more presence, more joy, more pleasure, more awareness, most importantly. Because in the unknown, you can find intense grief, but through feeling it completely, you get a lot of knowledge of all the people that have come before, and you connect with everybody that has felt that level of grief. And that widens you in so many ways and broadens your perspective and horizons and makes you deeply rooted because you realize intense grief is very essential to the human experience. And if we avoid it, we cut ourselves off from ourselves. But if we go deep into it, we actually create this bridge across space and time with all of our ancestors. And that is the doorway to that intense love and connection and oneness. So if you're avoiding grief, there's no way you can embody enlightenment because your root chakra will never be grounded enough. And the light work is a lot of shadow work. And there's no other way around it because all opposites comprise a whole. So again, the unknown can be a source of so much enrichment, and it's definitely not something to be avoided for. And this is where all the great ideas come from. This is where all of the change comes from and the progress, because ultimately everything is always changing. And if we stay the same and hold on to previous knowledge that was relevant for before, and we do not live in the present and download new knowing that is relevant for now from the void, from the black space, from the unknown, we're not going to be able to survive. Or if not survive, we're not going to be able to thrive. But by staying open to the unknown, by having courage to constantly go and be renewed in that space, uh, by letting go of the old that no longer serves you and connecting to the new that is taking you where you want to be, through that process of constant death and rebirth, which feminine cycles symbolizes perfectly, you are able to constantly stay fresh, constantly stay youthful, constantly stay alert, curious, alive, in the know, because you're connected to the alive knowing, not to some dead knowledge in books that some of it could very well be still relevant, but there are even newer ways of expressing the same thing, which are fresher and more exciting and more invigorating and exhilarating and magical. So, miracles, I put miracles in the title, I think. That's where miracles come from. Because all of a sudden, you can see tons of connections and shortcuts and timelines the more you explore the unknown and you get familiar in it and you kind of get your bearings around. So then you can see a shortcut, a timeline where it can take you very swiftly to where you need to be. And you realize that time travel is not something that you need a machine for, but you can do it with your consciousness. And a space can be collapsed really quickly. And yeah, that's where it becomes really exciting when you learn more about the multidimensional nature of reality and multidimensional nature of self. Past, present, future are one. Present moment is the most potent, and that you can become a thing simply by being it in the now. Okay, I hope that piqued your curiosity. The unknown.